Before I start this video, I'd like to go ahead and apologize for my cat, because I have learned in these videos it's not about if he makes an appearance, it's when he makes an appearance. So he's already trolling around the room, so I'm sure at some point he'll make an appearance because he's already meowing. I feel like nothing with filming videos is ever gonna be easy. Like, I just decided it's not going to be, because goodness, it's not. So I lost my camera charger and could not find anywhere because I just moved back to my dad's house and everything is just everywhere and I lost it. And so the last video I was like quickly trying to finish it before my camera died, and I was like, oh, I'll just charge it, and lost the charger. And so then I went to go get a like universal charger thing, and I was like, oh, this is great, and I waited a little bit to go get it, and it was kind of cheap, and I was like, this is good because then I can charge like I don't have to bring all these different chargers when I go places. So I charged it, and I just tried to plug it in, or I just tried to like put my battery in, and I don't think it's charging it, so that's unfortunate. But you know, usually when you buy something to replace what you lost, you find what you lost. So I found my charger to my camera, which is nice. So I had to wait for that to charge, and we'll see how long that will last. So, which is good. I've just decided that I should just always make videos when my camera is dying, because then that makes it to where I talk quicker and I get done with what I'm saying a lot quicker, which I need help with. So it's all good. Anyways, welcome back to my channel. My cat just ran out because I just screamed a little bit. As you can tell, the curly hair is making an appearance this round, which is fine. It's never ending raining here in lovely Georgia, so I'm just gonna let the hair do what it wants to do. I hope everybody had a great holidays, Christmas and New Year's, and I'm excited about this new year that's coming up. So excited because this year I will be getting married, I will be finishing seminary, and I will also be getting my LPC. Oh my goodness, like things that I have waited for 2 years now are finally happening, and I always feel like my life is just so chaotic and sporadic, and I always have these really big goals that I want to do in life, but the only thing that makes me like stay or feel like not weird or that I've messed up my life or something is that how committed I stay to these goals. So I have huge aspirations in life all of the time, but I usually stay pretty committed to them, so that makes me feel like not as, I don't know, like I switch my mind all the time. So I am super excited that this year I will be done with so many goals of mine that I have. And obviously the marriage thing was just like not really on my radar. With the addition of me getting engaged, and I've been engaged for about a month, I wanted to make a video about how to date a chaplain candidate, essentially. What your mentality has to be if you are single and you're a candidate. As a female, I never really dated that much, and I actually didn't start dating a whole lot until like kind of grad school, like my first round of grad school. So up until I was like 24. After that, I just kind of took it to, I don't know, what I kind of felt like doing, and even then I've only ever really dated like a couple guys and only ever had like 2 boyfriends or 3 boyfriends, I don't really know. I just wasn't into dating a whole lot. But because I'm 20, I think I'm 27, pretty sure I'm 27, I always forget. But being 27, and when I turned 27, I was still single, and if y'all remember, there was a video actually made back when I was on tour, just kind of like talking about the sadness that I feel, because I don't really have somebody to call at night when I'm on tour. I don't really have anybody to like come home to other than family, and kind of how that was a little bit sad for me, not having that person there. So it has been kind of hard being setting up my life to be single. Because I got to a point where I was like, I need to run my life as if it might just be me and God. And it took actually one of my best friend's husband to tell me that, to say you have to get to a point to where it might just be you and God, and you have to be okay with that. And so that kind of incited me. By that point I had already joined the Air Force, but that kind of just motivated me that I need to look at my life and set it up to where if I was single, I'm financially stable, I'm able to have a good career, I'm able to be successful, I'm able to have good days and be happy, and just not invest my whole self on being in a relationship. That's not the whole purpose of why God has me on this earth, but I need to look at the purpose that God does have for me and be successful in that. So with that, that was a lot of my focus. And kind of looking back on it, it was sad, and I was upset about it, just being single all the time. But I wanted to set myself up to where it was okay if I was single, and then set up my career, so my Air Force career, and also my career as a counselor, or career of whatever I wanted to do was kind of set up. So that was my life for a while, but I was still dating because I wanted to make sure that I was still answering God's call in my life. So I've always known that I wanted to be a wife and a mother, and I've always felt that super intense inside of me, to be a wife and a mother. So what I started doing is praying, like a year or so back, I started praying for when I became a mother and a wife. And I started praying to God, let me be a wife, let me be all of these attributes that I see like in the book of Ruth, and just these women that we have examples of in Proverbs 31, and help me just to be that wife for a man that you have prepared for me, because I know that you've placed this desire inside of me, so I know you have somebody prepared for me. So let me be that woman now. Like, let me learn how to be that woman. And y'all don't know this, but y'all have actually been with me through dating like 2 guys before my fiance. If y'all have been with me on this journey, you actually saw 1 or 2 videos about, I've deleted them now, but with the last guy I dated. And then if y'all have picked up on it, unfortunately, very sad, my friend that was killed last March, and I went to go visit, or I went to his squadron funeral, and also his funeral up in Arlington, which those videos are still up. He was actually, I dated him for a little bit, so he has a special place in my heart for sure. But y'all have been with me through that journey of, whether you knew it or not, and that's like the most I've ever dated in my life. Like, dated 2 guys in 1 year. I've never done that before. But they were godly men, and I was like, this is just, we're gonna try it out and see where it goes. They both didn't really last too long. But there's just something about those relationships that I just didn't feel at peace about. There's a lot of anxiety attached to it, and I just felt like if the purpose of marriage on this side of heaven is that I'm able to be the church, and my husband's able to be Christ, and that's how we understand that love and that connection. If that's the purpose of it, then I shouldn't be anxious about a relationship that I'm in. I shouldn't be just all consumed about this relationship. And it actually took one of the chaplains to sit me down and be like, this isn't love, this isn't what you need to be in. So long story short, I met my fiance. But one of the biggest things that really hit home with me as a candidate, and one thing that I was really nervous about with being a candidate and being single and being a little bit you know, in 27 years old, was it's gonna be really hard for me to find a guy that's okay with my lifestyle. Extremely difficult, because I always seem to my whole life I've always been into the outdoors and rock climbing and backpacking and just kayaking and mountain biking, and I love all of that stuff. And you know, up until about a month ago, I was actually managing a rock climbing gym, and all of that can be a little intimidating is what I've learned. And what I've seen in most of the guys I've dated, it's been like a competition almost. Like, if they can keep up with me and showing me that they can be better than me at stuff. And I just never really liked that. And I don't know, I don't like relationships like that. I knew I prayed for a man to feel confident in who he was and who God has made him to be, no matter what I do. I would like a man that does all those things with me, but I don't want him to feel intimidated because I'm also as good as he may be. And so I would pray for that, for a man that God has for me, and that might be a sign. But I knew that, you know, being a Air Force officer, being a person in ministry, because I'm an ordained minister at this point, and being super outdoorsy and being full-time in seminary all at the same time, and then also just like having a lot of debt from school. It was just so consuming I was already like, wow, I'm a difficult person to date in the first place because I feel like guys are always intimidated by the stuff that I do. And now here we go, like adding all this Air Force stuff. Because one thing I find a lot in ministry is that being a woman in ministry is still very difficult to be accepted almost. And I understand that there's different faiths and there's different denominations and I don't know, all this stuff, but I can't deny what God has called me to do. Finding a religious man, a man that loved the Lord, a man that had Baptist beliefs, that would be okay with being married to a female minister that wants to go active duty and does all this other stuff at the same time. I was like, wow, I'm gonna be hard to date. It's gonna be hard to find a guy. And it actually came out to where the last guy that I dated, that became an issue. And I just, you know, he knew all that coming out into it. He knew that I am gonna be a female minister and I'm in the Air Force and one day I'm gonna deploy, and that's just how it's gonna be. And that seemed to be, it was more of an issue about the fact that he was not okay that his wife and the mother of his children will one day deploy. And it was more kind of focused on that than it was about ministry. But I knew it was still gonna be a difficult man to find. And so I was nervous about that, and a couple of different people invested into me to have confidence in myself and confidence in God. In my endorsement, we actually have to go through a mentorship program each year, which we're the only ones that do that, and it's super cool and I love it, and it's about to start back up, so I'm excited for that. But I actually talked to one, it was really cool. It was the senior chaplain at Arlington, which it's super great because he actually did my ex-boyfriend's funeral. That was amazing in its own self. But his wife spoke so much truth into me. And we had this one time to where we were supposed to have our like spouses with us and kind of have like a marriage and spouses mentorship, and it was just like me and my cat. And I'm like, held up my cat, I was like, this is us. And we got to just ask her whatever questions. And so I asked that chaplain's wife, what should I do? What should my thought process be being a female chaplain and being single? Because that's a rarity. It's very rare. Most of the candidates or chaplains, female chaplains I know, they're either married already before they go into this, or they don't feel called to be married. So I was like, I don't know who to ask these questions to. And one thing she told me, oh, see, there's the cat. Eventually he would have made it up here. One thing she told me is that I have to trust who God has for me. And I have to be very particular in who I date. And I have to be very upfront and just kind of lay it out on the first, this is who I am. This is what you should expect. This is who God has called me to be. And if you don't pair up with that, then you are not who God has called me to be with. And that just went in my head a lot. And I prayed about that for several months, because it was April, May, June, July, August. It was 6 months after between the last boyfriend I had and when I met my fiance. So I got to a point where I was like, I am done with this dating. I am done with just feeling out these guys for a couple months and getting my heart invested into something and come to find out that they're not okay with this lifestyle that God has called me to. So I was like, you know what? I'm gonna do this. Like, the next guy I'm gonna go on a date with, I'm gonna lay it out up front and say, this is what God has called me to do. He has called me to be a candidate. Well, I'm a candidate now. He's called me to be a chaplain in the Air Force. He has called me to go active duty, or at least that's what I think right now. But what if active duty is an option? He has called me to be a minister, a female minister. These are the things that he has called me to do. I'm in a full-time seminary right now. At the time, I had a full-time job. This is what God has called me to do. If you are not the man to be okay with that, and God has not also called you to that, then that's okay, because you are not the man that God has gotten me together with. You're not the man that God has prepared for me. Cat sneezing. Stop. Are you okay? Anyways. But I just started praying for that discernment and that courage, because that was huge for me. That was so huge for me to just stand up for myself and say, this is who I am, and if it's not something that you can see yourself doing or what you have already been called to do, then that's not it. And that's also one thing that she said too, is I have to trust that the man that God has for me, God has already called them to this ministry. And it just really played in my brain a lot. Played a lot in my brain, and started praying about it, and especially meeting more families on tour, it really showed me that being a chaplain, it's not my ministry, it's my family's ministry. So I have to trust that the Lord has a man for me that also has been called to the same ministry. And if that's not the man that's sitting in front of me on the state, then that's not the man for me. And then one thing that stuck in my brain a lot too was I'm pretty close with a married couple that the husband I was in my flight in when I was going through the candidate tour, and his wife would come and visit him, and I would often be there. I would often be his wingman when his wife came, so me and his wife got pretty close, and she's fantastic. She's now an active duty officer, which is really cool, in the Air Force, and she and I went to go visit them actually once, and of course they're already invited to the wedding, and they're great. And I sat and I talked with her for a little bit one day when I went to go visit her, and I was like, how did y'all do this? Like, how as a female, she knew way early on that she wanted to be in the military. And then he's going to be the chaplain, and he was already enlisted when they met and they got married. I was like, how did y'all do this? Because he knew he wanted to be a chaplain. And she said, because in their faith that they have a different denomination than I do, is you get married and you don't get divorced. Like, there's not a whole lot of leeway for it when you're a minister of that faith. So I was like, how did you do that? And she said, she was like, we got to a point where we realized that if you are not who God has prepared for us, then I need to just not be with you. And we just have to be upfront about that at the very beginning. So she said on their first couple of dates, they sat each other down. She said, here's the deal. I want to be an active duty officer in the Air Force. And he said, here's the deal. I'm going to be a minister and a chaplain in the Air Force, and this is what it requires of you to be if you are going to be my wife. And they were just very upfront and very intentional about it. And it worked out for them, and they're great, and I love them very dearly. And she actually has a really cool Instagram, because she makes all these really cool vintage clothing, which if I can find the link for that, I'll probably post that somewhere. I don't really know how to do that, so it might be below, but she's fantastic. So go follow her if you would like. And she actually helps, I don't know if she does it anymore, but she helps with this thing called the Warrior's Journey, and it's a Christian based Instagram based on military, so I'll probably add that in here too, which is pretty cool. But anyways, long story short, I got to a point where I was like, I have to be very upfront about what God has called me to be, who God has called me to be, what he's called me to do, who I'm supposed to be in my future. And that took a lot of prayer, but I was like, I'm gonna do it, and I did it. So I actually met, if y'all didn't know this, I just got to a point where, and I'm sure you already know this because it's already in the title, but just this whole dating online thing just started twirling around in my brain a lot, and a lot of my friends that I know, that I trust and I love, have met their spouses online, and they're lovely people and I love them dearly. I love their spouses dearly. So I one day during finals decided to, because I always make decisions that I shouldn't make during finals week, like buying this camera, but I signed up for Christian Mingle, and I was only on there for like a week or two, and my fiance got on there for about a day, and the first day he messaged me and I didn't respond back because I couldn't see his profile picture. And then finally I could see his profile picture and I was like, oh, he's cute. I said message him back, and he actually was wearing he had a uniform on, because I really wasn't really talking to anybody that didn't look like they have any connection to military, because I kind of felt like that should be somebody I marry. I've always felt called to marry somebody that had some kind of military understanding, and so he actually had, but he had enlisted rank, and I was like, oh, I don't know. So I just, out of kicks and giggles, messaged him back, and he come to find out, he was actually out of the military at that point, so it was legal. But it was cool because he said that when he saw my profile, which I only had like one picture, I had like no information of myself. When he saw my picture, he said that just something called out to him, and he started praying. He just started praying that if I was who God had for him, or if I was somebody he needed to talk to, that I would respond back to him. So after a couple days of me not responding, he just like, well, I guess that's it, and then I responded back one day, and from there, it was weird because we didn't even meet each other for a week, and he was texting me like nonstop, and I actually had plans already to meet up with some other guy. And so that Friday, he won my heart over in that week, just being very blunt of, this is who I am, this is what I want out of life, over text messages. And I think what it really was he was like, what are your thoughts on tattoos? And my response was, I have one, so I think they're pretty cool. And I really think that's what won him over with me, because he does have a lot of tattoos, a lot from when he got deployed, and different reasons he has tattoos on his arms, and he wants some more. And I think that's what won him over. But I don't know, something was different, even just texting him. And then we met up, or he came over to my house, picked me up, and I was actually supposed to meet up with another guy the next day, and I just texted that guy that night, and I was like, I'm sorry, I just can't do this, like I just don't feel right about this. And I was honest with him about what happened, and I wished him the best. But we went on our first date, and honestly, the first date, I said, here it is, and I just prayed about it the whole time, just sat there, and I was just like, this is who I am, this is what God has called me to be, who God has called me to be. I want to go active duty. If you can't see yourself being married, and I was the first date, I was like, if you cannot see yourself being married to a Baptist female minister, chaplain officer in the Air Force, following me around the world, then you are not who God has for me, and that's okay. I would rather you tell me now. First date. And just so much prayer, and it was cool because he sat there and he's like, I could do that. I could do that. And I was like, who are you? Are you lying to me? And he went into his own, and already that whole week he had already told me, this is who I am. If you don't like it, then you're just not who God has for me. And so I think that we both came into it with, we're getting older. This is who God has us to be. And if this is not who you are, or you can't see yourself living in this lifestyle, then you are not who God has for me. And we were both just very adamant and very strict on that. And it was crazy because that first night, I don't know if I told this in the other videos, but that first night I knew that that was the man I was supposed to marry, and everybody thought I was crazy, and I thought I was crazy, and I prayed about it a lot, and it was strange, and y'all can ask me questions if you want to. And then the second time I saw him, I knew that I loved him, and it was the strangest thing I've ever felt before in my life. And he brought me a sandwich, and that was it. I knew that I loved him. I knew that's who God had for me. All of my friends thought I was strange. I thought I was strange. And it was 2 weeks in, 3 weeks in, we told each other we loved each other. And I just knew, we just knew that this is who God had for us. So I don't know if that's going to work out with every situation, that if you just are upfront and just say, this is who God has for me, or this is who I am, and if you can't fit into that, you're not who God has for me. I don't really know if that's going to work for everybody's situation, but it worked for mine, and there was a lot of prayer and a lot of confidence going into it. So if you are a single chaplain candidate, if you are a single chaplain, and you have a long laundry list of things that God has called you to do, and you still want to be married, you just have to trust that God has somebody for you. So start praying for who you are as a spouse, start praying for who they are as a spouse, and start praying for the ministry that God has you both paired up to do. Because if you're a chaplain, it's not just your ministry, it's your family's ministry. So start praying for all of that, and just pray for discernment, so much discernment, because there was a couple other guys that I dated since I joined the Air Force that knew that this is what God had called me to, but I didn't really have the best of discernment in that process. So just pray for that discernment. And I still pray a lot for the discernment of the way that I speak to my fiance, and the way that I conduct myself around him, and the things that we talk about, and the things that we do on our time together. So I still pray for discernment, but it has been made very clear that he's the man I'm going to marry. So, which is good because we're engaged. But if you all have any questions about that, or would like me to elaborate or anything like that, please feel free to comment or to send me an Instagram message. That's how most of y'all talk to me. Merry Christmas, Happy New Year. It was really cool when y'all sent me Happy New Year's. I love that. I think that's great. And some of you have already started following my fiance on Instagram. That's really fun too. He doesn't really post anything, but I told him he's gonna be famous. But I just pray that the Lord has blessed y'all during this time, and I'll be praying for y'all if y'all could pray for me. I just pray that this new year is just really successful and growing for all of us. And a lot of y'all that I've talked to, y'all are actually going to go to your first round of training this year, and that's amazing. And I'm going to go to like my 3rd or 4th round of training. I don't really know, but it's been a great time. And 2018 was a lot of growth and a lot of heartache. A lot of heartache and a lot of growth, and a lot of time that me and God have spent together. And I'm excited for 2019 because I am reaping the things I have sown, and I am so excited for it. I'm so excited. There's so many things I worked for in life that I'm going to be able to achieve within this next year. So if you are achieving something this year, or you have a goal to do it, please comment below. If you want to say hello, please do that also. I always love it. If you have any questions or anything like that, that would be great. Yeah. Thanks for coming by. This was really long. Again, it didn't work out that I did it quicker, so sorry about that. And I will see y'all hopefully a lot shorter than I thought last time, because I have my charger now. So, alright, have a good night.